Good morning from Patty's Garage. This morning, we're going back to basics. And that means doing the initial setup of twin SU carbs. I've got lots of SU and SU tuning carburetor books and manuals, but this section of one of those manuals, and in some cases it may even be a section from one book and then a section from another book, but this particular book has very good, or this particular set of pages has very good methodology, step-by-step, going through the setup of SU carburetors. And I have found it very helpful to kind of take these pages and kind of march through the process and get things set up the way they're supposed to do. I have found that quite often, either myself in an impatient moment or other folks that I've watched and friends will shortcut the process, and in so doing, you may get one part of it right, you don't get the other part of it right, and you never get the carburetor set up correctly. So this set of instructions, certainly many in other books, give very good methodical step-by-step ways to set up an SU carburetor. And I found that you just don't want to take shortcuts in this process. So while these carburetors were set up initially using this method, I've changed the head, which changed the valves and the breathing and so forth. And so I'm going to go back, make sure that I know exactly where these carburetors are set up. I've changed needles in a previous video, so that I have I went from a V3 or a GG needle, and I'm now into a GY coated needle. And so I am just going to go back and go step by step, make sure everything is working in these carburetors before we try another startup and tuning session. And I've said we're going to follow these instructions exactly, but of course the first thing I'm going to do is skip the first step. You're supposed to bring this up to normal operating temperature when you're doing these carburetor adjustments, but this is basically an initial adjustment, so I can't bring it up to normal operating temperature. So we're going to skip A and B, which is warming up the engine and switching off the engine. And we're going to move on to adjusting the throttle adjusting screw. This is often called the idle adjusting screw, I think. And we're going to, and it's this piece, looking at it from the side, it's this piece right up on top of the linkage. And I'll show you that on these carburetors. So the screw that we're talking about is the one right in the center of the screen. And it is, you adjust it from the top, and it's actually pressing down on this linkage, so you can't really see the screw protruding down below, but that's the screw that we'll be adjusting. So I want to unscrew that throttle adjusting screw until it is just clear of the stop, and that the throttle is completely closed. So that would be the butterfly portion of the carburetor, butterfly valve we would call it, but the throttle, until it is completely closed, shutting off all fuel into the manifold. And then you're going to turn it back in 3/4 of a turn open, so you have a little bit of crack in the butterfly. So if you watch this little shiny part right here, as I adjust that screw, that will actually you'll see that start to move. Get my screwdriver in there. So as I adjust that, you can see that start to move down. Okay, well that's way too much, but I'm going to bring that back up again. And what you want to do is you want to bring that up just till it stops moving, and then go back 3/4 of a turn. We now have this screw and this screw. Those are the throttle adjusting screws. Are both horizontal. They're both 3/4 of a turn back from or open from their fully open position. These are also the screws that will be adjusting as we're synchronizing carburetors. So basically this is setting up both throttle openings to be identical. Moving on, they discuss marking for reassembly. Remove the piston suction chamber, which is the dash pot, and disconnect the mixture control wire, and then adjusting the mixture adjusting screw or the jet all the way up until the top portion of the jet is at the bottom of the base plate, and then replace the piston units as marked, and then turn down the adjusting nut 2 complete turns. With the dash pots removed, we can now raise the mixture adjusting nut, which is this nut down here marked in red, and we can raise that until it is level with the bridge of the jet. When the nut is wound out, you can normally just start spinning this nut by hand, and you'll see that as I do that, the jet starts to rise closer and closer to the bridge, and you want to do that until it's level. Now, if it starts to get a little bit tough, there is actually a excuse me. There is actually a SU nut adjusting tool that can help you the rest of the way, just getting this nut turned until we reach the top of the bridge. Trying to do this with one hand, and excuse me, looking away. And we want to do that until that is just to the top of the bridge. And we're almost there. So when you think you've got it about close, you put your straight edge across, and if it'll rock a little bit, or if you're dragging it across and it hits a ledge, you're still too high. So you want to back it off one flat, see if that'll get it straight where you're not rocking, and then do the drag test again. And if you can drag it across, back and forth across the bridge, then you know you're right at the right level, and you've got that perfect. The next thing you do is then just mark that flat. This one right here. Mark that. In my case, I'll mark it with a red ink pen, and we'll know that is absolutely at the top. And then when we, as the instructions tell us, we want to back this off 2 full turns or 12 flats, and then that will return right back to that same position, but 2 turns down. We have completed setting the mixture screw at first at the top across the bridge, and then we will now turn it down 2 full turns. But before making that adjustment, we want to reinstall the piston suction chamber with the unit as marked. Looking for my little, there's my little mark, so we know that that's the back carburetor. And just giving this a quick little test. See how that works. With the dash pots reinstalled with their pistons, I've added oil to the dash pot chamber down in the top of the pistons here. There's a tube, and that's been filled with oil where the dampers ride. This is the top of the damper, the little brass part of the top of the carburetor. So we left off both of the mixture adjusting nuts have been marked. They're level with the top of the bridge and the carburetor, and now we need to back them off 2 full turns. That's 12 flat, each where this red is here, that's considered to be a flat. So we need to back that off 2 full turns for the initial start. With the mixture screws adjusted 2 full turns out, we can now turn our attention to the choke linkage and throttle linkage. Was looking for, let me see if I can find my tool that I'm going to be using for that. I have kind of fought the size of the nut here, and then these that are back here, and just seems like they are just a slight bit off from standard. And I've tried metric, I've tried UNF or standard. One of these little nut drivers, let me see if I can. So that's 5/16, and that's just a little bit too big. Looking for the size on this. This looks like what is that? 11/30 seconds. 11/30 seconds. That seems to slip over at least enough to get those to turn, but there's just a little bit of slack, but they will eventually turn. And these don't have to be mega tight or anything, it's not like you're torquing down a head. So this is going to be my primary tool, and I had a 1/4-inch drive socket, and that looks like that's going to be 8mm. Can't get that to focus, but I think 8mm is also kind of the seems like it kind of works. So between the 2 of them, I'll be able to get that linkage backed off. One other thing I want to move on before I move on, and that's these 2 little pieces over here. These carburetors, these are HS2s, and they have a port on the side of each of them. One here, and you'll often see where there's a little Y connector, and it comes up here, connecting these 2 ports to a Y connector, and that is part of the positive crankcase ventilation system, which this engine does not have. And so that port actually comes all the way through comes into the body of the carburetor, just beyond. I can put my finger in there and reach into the body, and I can find where that opens just past the piston. And so this, if it's not blocked off, is going to be massive hole into the body of the carburetor and just allowing air to flow in. I'm thinking that originally I had this hooked up with a different kind of an apparatus, and I'm thinking that that is possibly part of my problem with getting these carburetors to idle and tune right. I'm just getting basically a big old air leak into those carburetors. So I've gotten rid of the system that I had on there, and I've just got a length of fuel hose clamped onto the tube in the carburetor, a bolt up here tightened down so that these are now airtight, and hopefully that'll eliminate any air leaks coming into the carburetor. We're just going to be drawing whatever gets measured across the throat of the carburetor and the jet system that's there. The next step in the process is to slacken off the clamping bolts on the throttle spindle and on the jet control or mixture area. So the number 7 are the back bolts, number 8 in the front. And with that done, as I move the throttle, you can see that the right one is moving freely and it's disconnected from this left one. And the same thing true of this front. I can move this jet independently of this jet. So both have been slackened off as per the instructions. Well, things are starting to get a little bit exciting once again. This is, we finished setting up the carburetor. Our next step is to attempt to start the engine and then adjust the idle till we get the proper idling speed so that we can start doing some adjustments to the mixture, and we can make sure that we get the timing correct. I've completed all of the carburetor recalibration, all the new little pieces refitted. I'm backing off a little bit. You'll notice that I've got the jets on a yellow. So this is about 2 turns, 2 flats rather, back from the recommended starting point for right out of the manual for setting up the carburetors. And I'm going to give this we're going to see if we can get this started all on its own. It's I don't know what, probably about 90 degrees outside. So we're starting off with just an ambient temperature. It's about 87 degrees here in the garage. So we're gonna start from cold. Let's fire up the old control module. Give it general power. Already got our switch on over there. We'll preheat our lambda gauge, air-fuel ratio gauge. We are set for lambda. That is good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of hold open the choke mechanism, and we'll give it a crank over here on the start switch and see if we can get this started up. Okay, let's give this thing a shot. Give it a little choke here. get warmed up. All right, not a bad test run. Obviously, we would have not gotten that up to wouldn't have warmed that up much, but we still need a little bit of adjustment. We're still going to need some take a look at timing, but it's good to know that it's starting on its own, and running fairly well. I'm sure it'll run well once we get it all warmed up. And a few more adjustments, either between mixture and or timing. It didn't look like, looking at the lambda gauge, nothing looked real unusual. Obviously, all of that will change once I start working on getting that timing dialed in, because I really don't want to do too much carburetor-wise until I'm fairly confident that I've got the timing correct. So we'll pick this back up tomorrow.